He had only gone to the supermarket to buy a bottle of water. While he was inside, his daughter was waiting outside, and suddenly she was attacked by a group of thugs. Hearing the sound of gunfire, the man rushed out in panic. The attacker, who had never taken a life before, froze in fear after pulling the trigger. The father lunged forward, knocking the criminal to the ground. He yanked off the mask covering the attacker's face, and the two began to struggle. The gang leader, realizing things were going badly, ordered his men to retreat. Meanwhile, the young attacker kicked over a barricade, tried to escape, and ran straight into arriving police officers. He was arrested on the spot. By the time the mother rushed to the hospital, their daughter had already left them forever. The couple collapsed in grief. And what caused this tragedy? Nothing but a cruel test from the gang boss to his son. He had ordered his follower to randomly harm someone to prove himself worthy of joining the crew. The innocent girl became the victim of their game. To make matters worse, because the crime scene had no cameras and no witnesses, there was no way to prove who had pulled the trigger. The attacker could only be charged with assaulting an officer and resisting arrest, crimes that carried at most 3 years in prison. Hearing this, the father was overwhelmed with rage. In his despair, he made a decision that went against everything he once believed. Since the law could not bring justice, he withdrew his testimony against the criminal. As a result, the attacker walked out of court a free man, completely unaware that his own fate was about to arrive. As soon as the attacker left in his car, the father followed closely behind. He trailed him to a bar, waited outside, and when the man came out alone, he started his engine. With one burst of speed, he struck him down before the attacker even realized what was happening. The father then stepped out, holding a baseball bat. Recognizing him, the attacker begged desperately for mercy. But the father could no longer hear his pleas. He swung the bat again and again, until the man lay still. When the attacker's brother arrived at the scene, it was already too late. He knew instantly who had done this, only the grieving father could have taken such action. The very next day, while the father was sitting at a cafe, the brother appeared with one of his men. Shots were fired, but the father reacted quickly, knocking the gun aside and narrowly escaping with his life. Hiding behind a car, he tackled the gunman who approached, landing punch after punch until the man could no longer fight back. But when the brother joined in, the father had no choice but to run. Luckily, a police car happened to pass by, forcing the attackers to pull back. Yet in the chaos, the brother picked up the father's dropped wallet. That night, the father confessed everything to his wife. He planned to take her away to hide, but the gang struck again. The brother and his father, the gang boss, tracked them down. Knowing he was cornered, the father begged them to let his wife go. But the boss coldly pulled the trigger, and the brother followed with more shots, leaving him bleeding on the floor. They walked away, certain he would not survive. What they didn't know was that he clung to life. A sympathetic police captain rushed him to the hospital. The captain urged him not to seek revenge and promised he was already collecting evidence against the gang. But the father could no longer be reasoned with. Day after day, he pushed through recovery until he was strong enough. Then he disguised himself as a hospital worker and escaped. He reached out to an old friend, a war buddy, who supplied him with weapons and support. Meanwhile, the gang boss learned the father was alive and ordered his son to finish the job. The brother gathered his men, but the father struck first. He stormed into their base, found the ones responsible for his family's death, and pulled the trigger without hesitation. He didn't leave immediately. Instead, he called the boss's son, luring him to a motel for a final confrontation. By the time the son returned, his father was already gone. Strangely, he felt no grief. Instead, he claimed the throne, stepping into his father's position as leader. Back at the motel, the father regrouped with his ally. Soon, the new gang leader tracked them down, shouting from the street but unaware which room they were in. He had no idea a sniper rifle was already trained on him. But when the shot was fired, it missed, giving away their position. A firefight broke out, forcing the father and his friend to retreat. Luckily, the gang leader's men were poor shots, and the two barely escaped in their car, speeding away into the night. Yet the new leader refused to give up. He chased them from day into night, determined to end it. But the father had one more plan. He called on another old friend, a man who commanded his own crew. With his brother in danger, this friend did not hesitate to help. Together, they lured the enemy into a repair shop. the Allies' men blocked the entrance, ambushing the pursuers and catching them completely off guard. Forced into retreat, the gang leader pulled back. But just when everyone thought it was over, he returned, crashing his car through another side of the building. Once again, both sides were drawn into a fierce and desperate battle.